I never thought I'd be that guy, you know. The one who gets blindsided by something so massive it totally flips his world upside down. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for about 6 months. We'd been together for almost 3 years before tying the knot, and honestly, I thought everything was perfect. She seemed like the girl of my dreams, beautiful, funny, ambitious, and she always acted like she genuinely cared. But looking back now, there were little signs, little things I brushed off. She'd be more distant sometimes, pulling her phone out of sight when I came near, or canceling plans last minute saying she was busy with work. I figured she was just stressed, or maybe not that into me anymore, but I wanted to believe it was just stress, that she still loved me. Our relationship wasn't perfect, what is? But I trusted her. I had no reason not to. We were planning our wedding, excited about starting our life together, and I was even starting to plan a little surprise honeymoon. Then, out of nowhere, things started feeling off. She was becoming more secretive, more sarcastic. She'd snap at me for little things. Say I was paranoid or overthinking. I remember one night I caught her looking at her phone late at night, quickly locking the screen when I entered the room. That's when the little gut feeling started gnawing at me. I tried to ignore it, convinced myself I was just paranoid. But the doubts kept creeping in, especially as she started avoiding eye contact and making excuses about her phone. One day, I decided to do a little digging. Nothing malicious. I wasn't trying to stalk her or anything, just a little curiosity. I knew her passwords and I'd never snooped before, but I felt like I was losing her. So I grabbed her phone when she was in the shower. I didn't plan to go through everything, just peek at her recent messages, maybe get a hint. But what I saw froze me in my tracks. There was a string of texts from her boss, Mark, an older guy, probably in his late 50s, flirty, suggestive, and pretty damn explicit. They were talking about meeting up, secret weekends, and how they missed each other when they weren't together. The tone was clearly more than professional. My stomach sank. I kept reading, my hands trembling. She told me she was working late that week, but here she was texting him about sneaking out to his place for just a quickie and how she'd make it worth his while. My mind spun. How could she do this? Right before our wedding with her boss, the guy who's also the father of my best friend. My best friend Dave had always spoken highly of Mark, said he was a great guy, successful, respected. And here my wife was, lying to my face, cheating on me with him. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, then kicked while I was down. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or just break everything around me. It was like everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was a complete lie. The worst part, I'd never suspected anything. She'd always told me she loved me, that I was her future. And now I find out she's been screwing her boss, the guy who's also the father of my best friend. That's a whole other level of betrayal. I mean, how does someone do that? How do you lie so blatantly, cheat so openly, and still have the nerve to look me in the eye? I felt sick, angry, heartbroken, confused. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be smart about it. I needed to catch her in the act, or at least have proof that I couldn't deny. So I kept reading, trying to figure out what her next move might be. That's when I saw her coming back from work, looking innocent as hell, like nothing was wrong. I felt my blood boil. The game was on now. The moment she walked through the door, I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. My mind was racing, and I was already planning my next move. I kept calm, pretending everything was normal, while inside I was boiling with rage and betrayal. She threw her bag down, gave me that fake smile she always used when she was hiding something. I looked at her, my heart pounding, trying to mask the storm that was brewing inside me. "Hey babe," she said, flipping her hair, acting like she hadn't just been screwing her boss. I nodded, trying to act casual, but inside I was on fire. I couldn't believe how good she was at lying, how she could pretend like everything was fine. But I knew better. I knew her secrets. Over the next few hours, I kept her close, probing for details, watching her reactions. It wasn't long before she slipped up. She was on her phone again, typing fast, trying to hide the screen from me. I asked her about her day, and she snapped back with that bitchy tone she always used when she was caught off guard. "Why do you keep asking? I told you I was busy with work." "Nothing else going on," she snapped, rolling her eyes. I just stared at her, my fists clenched. I knew she was lying, and I knew I had to catch her in action. That night I decided I'd set a trap. I told her I was going out to meet a friend, but instead I stayed home watching her every move. I wanted her to slip up again to show her true colors. And slip up she did. The next evening I left her alone for a bit, claiming I'd be back soon. I put my phone on record, hidden, and waited. Sure enough, around an hour later I caught her sneaking out of the house with her purse. I followed her sneaky little steps down the street, heart pounding. She went straight to Mark's place, parked her car, and went inside. I parked a block away, trying not to lose my mind. I watched the door for a few minutes, hearing muffled voices, then silence. When she finally came out, she looked guilty, nervous. She hurried into her car and sped off. That was it. I had my proof. I knew for sure she was cheating on me with her boss and that she'd been lying to my face for God knows how long. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I felt numb, sick, like I'd lost a part of myself. The worst part was that I'd trusted her, loved her, and she'd been fucking around with my best friend's dad all along. I couldn't even process what this meant for my friendship with Dave. How do you recover from something like this? How do you even begin to forgive someone who's lied so blatantly? I waited for her to come home, my mind racing with what I'd say. But I knew. I couldn't just yell at her and let her dismiss it as some misunderstanding. I needed a plan, a way to get her to admit everything. Because I wasn't about to let this slide. Not after what I saw. I stayed up all night, staring at her bedroom door, thinking about how my life had been shattered in a single day. Everything I believed in, everything I wanted was now in ruins. And I wondered, how do you come back from this kind of betrayal? The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. My brain was a mess of rage, sadness, and disbelief. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I couldn't do it without a plan. I needed her to admit everything, to own up to her lies. I wasn't going to let her brush this off or spin some bullshit story. No, she was going to have to face the consequences of her actions. I got up early, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and sat in the living room, waiting. When she finally woke up, she looked tired, maybe a little guilty, but still her bitchy self. She tried to act like everything was normal, saying, "Good morning, babe, did you sleep okay?" I just looked at her and said, "We need to talk." Her smile faltered just a bit, and I could see she knew I wasn't in the mood for her games. I started slow, asking about her day yesterday, her whereabouts, and her plans. She kept contradicting herself, slipping up but still trying to deny anything serious. That's when I pulled out the evidence. I told her I followed her to Mark's house last night. Her face went pale for a second, then she quickly recovered, trying to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, Mike. You're being paranoid. It's not what you think. I was just dropping something off for my boss. It's nothing, I swear," she said, her voice dripping with bullshit. I shook my head, feeling my blood boil. "Lisa, I saw her go inside. I saw her come out. Don't lie to me. I know about the texts, the secret meetings, everything." "How long has this been going on?" Her eyes darted around, trying to avoid mine. "Look, it's not what you think. Mark's just a client. Nothing happened. We're just working together, okay? It's all just work stuff." But I wasn't buying it. I knew better. The way she was acting, the defiance, the lies, they told me everything I needed to know. I felt a deep ache in my chest. The woman I loved, the woman I was about to marry, had been screwing around behind my back with her boss, who also happened to be my best friend's father. That's not just betrayal. That's betrayal on a level I never expected. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. All those late nights, all the talk about honesty and trust, gone just like that. It felt like my world was collapsing. I told her I needed some space, that I was done talking for now. I went outside, took a deep breath, trying to find some kind of clarity. It was like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into an abyss. I wanted to lash out, to yell, to break something, but I knew I had to keep my composure. One thing was clear: this wasn't just a fling. It was a full-blown affair, and she'd lied to my face for months. While I was outside, I started making a mental list of my options. Do I confront her again? Do I go to Mark and Dave? Do I just pack my stuff and leave? Every thought was like a punch to the gut. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. But deep down, I knew one thing: this wasn't going to be something I just forget or forgive. Not easily. Whatever I decided, I'd have to live with it. And I wasn't sure I was ready to forgive her, not after what I saw. After a few hours of sitting in silence trying to process everything, I decided I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. I needed to see her face, hear her lie directly to me, and get some kind of closure, or at least a sense of what she was truly capable of. I called her into the living room, and she came in with that fake innocent look she always used when she was trying to hide something. I could see right through it now. "Lisa," I said, voice steady but cold. "I want to hear the truth from you. No more bullshit. How long has this been going on? Be honest, because I already know the answer, but I need to hear it from you." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing, trying to seem defiant. "Mike, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you saw something, but—" "No," I cut her off. "You do know. I saw the messages. I saw you sneaking out last night. I know about Mark. How long have you been sleeping with him? Since when?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Look, I didn't mean for you to find out like this. It's not what you think. I was stressed, okay? Work has been crazy, and Mark, he's been there for me. It's not some big deal, just sex. It's not like I don't love you." That made my blood boil. "Just sex," I repeated, voice rising. "You've been screwing your boss, Lisa, and you expect me to believe that's just stress and some meaningless sex. Tell me, what the hell were you thinking?" She crossed her arms, her face twisting into a smirk. "Maybe I was thinking I deserve better than this. Maybe I wanted to see if I could still get some excitement. You're so boring, Mike. Always working, always so damn predictable. I needed to feel alive again." That was a slap in the face. I felt my entire world shatter into 1,000 pieces. All the love, all the trust, gone in an instant. I looked at her, trying to hold back the rage, the heartbreak, the betrayal. I realized then that she had no shame, no remorse. She was justifying her actions, throwing it in my face like I was the problem. I walked away from her, my mind racing. I couldn't stay in the same room with her anymore. I felt sick just thinking about all the lies she'd told me, all the times I'd trusted her. I wondered how long she'd been lying, how many nights she'd spent with Mark behind my back. The thought made my stomach turn. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I kept my composure. I knew that whatever I did next, it had to be something that would make her regret ever crossing me. I realized I couldn't stay. Not like this. I told her I was leaving for a bit to clear my. I needed space to think, to decide what I was going to do about us. As I packed a bag, she kept trying to apologize, but I couldn't hear it. All I could hear was the sound of my heart breaking. I had trusted her with everything, and now I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a cheat, a manipulator. I didn't know how to move forward from this. All I knew was that my life, the one I had planned with her, was now a complete mess, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to trust again. I left the house that afternoon feeling numb and furious all at once. The world around me seemed to blur, like I was walking through a fog of betrayal. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just needed to get away, to think without her words echoing in my mind. I drove aimlessly, trying to sort out what I should do next. Every thought was a punch in the gut. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? And what the hell was I supposed to say to Dave, my best friend, when I saw him next? His father, my wife, and I were all tangled in this mess. I knew I couldn't just come back and pretend everything was fine. That wasn't who I was. I had to decide whether to fight for her, to try to fix this, or to just cut my losses. But deep down, I already knew the answer. I couldn't forgive her, not after she treated me like some fool she could lie to and cheat on behind my back. I kept replaying the moments in my head, the texts, her sneaking out, her cold, dismissive attitude when I confronted her. It all added up to one thing: this wasn't just about some fling. It was about her complete disregard for everything we'd built. Later that evening, I reached out to a close friend, Jack, who always gave it to me straight. I needed someone to talk to, someone who wouldn't sugarcoat the truth. I told him everything about the texts, the sneaking around, her dismissiveness. He listened quietly, then finally said, "Man, she's a bitch. You deserve better than that. And honestly, if she's willing to cheat on you with her boss and your best friend's father, she's not worth the pain. It's time to cut her loose." That hit hard. But honestly, Jack's words made me realize I'd been holding on to something that was already broken beyond repair. I knew I had to do what was best for me. I couldn't stay with her and pretend like everything was okay, not after I saw how she lied and betrayed me without a second thought. The thought of going back home, facing her, made me sick. I knew I'd have to have the most difficult conversation of my life, and I wasn't sure I had the strength. But I also knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. No, this was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I finally took control of my life again. That night, I sat alone in a cheap hotel room, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what had just happened. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, but also strangely relieved. The truth was out. I no longer had to wonder or guess. I had the proof, and I had the clarity I needed. Now I just had to figure out how to move on. I realized that from this moment forward, everything would be different. I'd rebuild my trust in myself first, figure out what I truly wanted, and never let someone treat me like that again. I knew I'd eventually get over the pain, but right now, all I wanted was to wake up from this nightmare. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. I didn't sleep much, didn't eat much. I spent hours just thinking about everything. Her, Mark, Dave, all of it. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever trust anyone again. But with time, the anger started to fade, replaced by a kind of cold clarity. I realized that I'd been living in a fantasy, believing that I'd found someone who genuinely cared about me. Turns out she was just a user, a liar, someone who threw away what we had for some fleeting excitement and a chance to feel powerful. I reached out to Dave, told him everything. His initial shock was obvious, but I could tell he was furious too. We talked for hours, and I saw the pain in his eyes, deeply hurt that his father could do something so wrong and that his wife would be part of it. Honestly, I don't blame him for feeling betrayed. I told him I didn't want to lose our friendship over this, but I also told him I couldn't just pretend everything was the same. It's going to take a while, maybe a long while, to rebuild that trust. But I appreciated his honesty and support, even if it hurt to know he might be just as broken by this mess. As for Lisa, I cut her out of my life completely. I blocked her number, changed my locks, and tried to move on. It wasn't easy. Everywhere I looked, reminders of what I lost, but I knew I had to do it for myself. I started focusing on my career, on friendships I'd neglected, and on rebuilding my sense of self. The pain was there, but so was a strange sense of liberation. I realized I was better off without her, without the lies and betrayal. I deserved someone who was honest, respectful, and loyal, something she clearly wasn't capable of. Looking back, I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to walk away from someone who lied and cheated. And I learned that revenge isn't about hurting others, but about protecting your own peace. I didn't exact some grand revenge. I just cut her out of my life and refused to let her poison my mind anymore. Now, I'm still healing, still trying to trust again, but I'm moving forward. I've realized that sometimes the worst pain teaches you the most about who you really are. And even though I wish this hadn't happened, I know that someday I'll look back and see it as a turning point, an end to a chapter of betrayal and the beginning of something better. I hope anyone reading this going through similar heartbreak knows you're not alone and you will get through it. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that make us stronger in the end.